We go quickly, and it may be pleasant. I'll tell you the order, and if you want to know more about the particular readers, there is a handout with bios, and you can read the bios or you can Google them. So first will be Nick Thurston from the UK. Second will be Christian Bök from Canada. Third will be Swantje Lichtenstein from Germany. Fourth will be Carlos Soto-Román from Chile. Fifth will be Paal Andersen from Norway. Sixth will be Marco Huerta from Mexico. Seventh will be Vanessa from the United States. And eighth will be Franck Leibovici from France. So let's start.
This cowboy shirt is maybe a thank you for this weird American invitation to Paris. But I'm just going to read one poem, and that's really for Anglophiles and Commonwealth subjects, which are two terrible subject statuses, really. But given last weekend's kind of charade in London around the Jubilee, it seemed pretty apt. So this one's called A Dress. 9:12 a.m. Guests are coming to arrive at Westminster Abbey now. Chelsea Davy has arrived wearing an emerald green dress by Alberta Ferretti with a cream box hill fascinator with veil. Guests so far are mostly friends of the family. What was Samantha Cameron thinking? Surely she could have asked for help in styling. And how the heck did Claire get a wife like that? 9:50 a.m. There's John Major. Is it over yet? Can I come out now? 9:59 a.m. With an hour to go, the media have been allowed into the Abbey and it's filling up fast. Do you reckon Prince Andrew's chalking all of this on his expenses account? 10:02 a.m. Elton John has given his own spin on the tails look by clashing up a yellow-pink waistcoat with a hot pink tie, classy and fun. This is nearly as exciting as Eurovision. 10:03 a.m. Piers Morgan has been discussing whether Diana would have enjoyed today if she were alive. Exclusive revelation, yes. Apparently on Fox News, the discussions revolved around where Diana would have sat if she were alive. French TV is rather good. It's being presented by Karl Lagerfeld, who's just said everyone's overweight and badly dressed. 10:05 a.m. The lunchtime reception this afternoon is at Buckingham Palace and hosted by the Queen. Fiona Cairns created a cake, a traditional multi-layered fruit cake decorated with cream and white icing. Prince William also asked McVitie's to make a chocolate biscuit cake based on a royal family recipe. Claire Jones, the official harpist to Prince Charles, is to perform. The evening reception will be hosted by Prince Charles before the older royals are due to melt away and leave the hip young things to party. 10:26 a.m. William and Harry have arrived at the Abbey now. Who's that ginger lad? Has he got a quiff? What was he thinking? I love Harry's geezer walk. 10:32 a.m. Mother of the bride, Carol Middleton, is arriving in a Jaguar now. Beckham's got a medal. Was that for kicking that Archie and getting sent off in the World Cup in 1988? 10:42 a.m. The Queen and Prince Philip are being driven along the mall now. Look out, the boss lady's on her way. LOL, it would be so much fun. God save me. Long live me, long to reign over all of you. Tell you what, if I was driving down the mall and the road had been closed for me, I'd fucking floor it. Bollocks to the crowd. 10:44 a.m. Prince Charles and Camilla are arriving now. I'm a bit disappointed that the Scandinavian royals haven't arrived by bike, but glad his brother decided against a Nazi uniform. 10:45 a.m. The Foreign Desk reports that even Al Jazeera is showing the wedding. Has Prince Philip insulted anyone yet? 10:53 a.m. First glimpse of the bride leaving her hotel. Hair down, intricate lace overlay of a V-neck shaped bodice that shows possibly just a hint of cleavage. Train seems long, judging by the fact getting into the car. OMG, 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 she's wearing a dress. 10:54 a.m. We are 99% sure that it was Sarah Burton of Alexander McQueen we just saw holding the train as Kate got into the car. 10:56 a.m. The bride's procession is walking through. Bloody foreign channel. Al Jazeera has interrupted the royal wedding with coverage to discuss some triviality in Syria. Makes me mad. I mean, I'm literally shaking. How dare they? 11:01 a.m. Kate is getting out a car now. The BBC is reporting that Sarah Burton of Alexander McQueen is the designer. Ooh, waving like a commoner there, Kate. You'll need to practice. What a waste. I mean, she's so good looking and could have had any guy, and yet she wants to settle for one from a dysfunctional family. I mean, there's nothing like a royal wedding to remind me that I'm single and broke. And at the moment, very, very bored. Come on, I mean, austerity cuts, what austerity cuts? Remember, we're all in this together. So I suppose we can find some extra money for all of this shutting down by, shutting down a hospital or two. I mean, perhaps if poor people didn't smoke and drink so much, we wouldn't need so many hospitals anyway. 11:02 a.m. Buckingham Palace has just put out a statement about the dress. Miss Middleton chose British brand Alexander McQueen for the beauty of its craftsmanship and its respect for traditional workmanship and the technical construction of clothing. Miss Middleton wished for her dress to combine tradition and modernity with the artistic vision that characterises Alexander McQueen's work. Miss Middleton worked closely with Sarah Burton in formulating the design of her dress. The dress epitomises timeless British craftsmanship by drawing together talented and skilled workmanship from across the United Kingdom. The dress design pays tribute to the arts and crafts tradition, which advocated truth to materials and traditional craftsmanship, using simple forms and often romantic styles of decoration. Miss Burton's design draws on this heritage, additionally giving the cut and the intricate embellishment a distinctive, contemporary and feminine character. Thank the Lord we have firm cotton to tell us what to think. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I get my dress designed to reflect my relaxed character too. 11:03 a.m. Kate and her father are now in the Abbey. It's a delicate lace top overlaying a strapless bodice with a full skirt and a delicate tight-fitting full sleeves. Rumour has it that the bride wanted flowers in her hair, but is instead wearing a diamond tiara. The train is, I reckon, about 2 to 3 metres long, and being carried by her sister Pippa in a short-sleeved, bias-cut ivory gown with scooped cowl neck and tight, slight fishtail, simple to the extreme. 11:04 a.m. William and Harry have walked to the front of the Abbey as Kate and her father make their way slowly along the aisle. 11:08 a.m. The introit is being sung, and Kate takes her place beside William. You look beautiful, he says. 11:09 a.m. The congregation are now singing, Guide me, O thou great Redeemer. You know what? Right now will be a superb time for a zombie apocalypse to begin. 11:12 a.m. The Dean of Westminster is giving the welcome and the introduction. 11:14 a.m. Phew, no one had any just cause why they should not be lawfully joined together in holy matrimony. The Archbishop of Canterbury is beginning the solemnisation of the marriage. Oh dear, here's the religious bit. Boring. 11:15 a.m. I will, says William. I will, says Kate. 11:16 a.m. William is giving his vows. I wish one of the rules was gay. That would be the funniest fucking thing ever to watch. I mean, watching the Daily Mail coverage chasing itself, it's beautiful, it's horrible, it's stunning, it's unnatural. 11:16 a.m. Still holding hands, Kate recites her vow, and so begins a lifetime of waving at serfs. 11:17 a.m. William puts the ring on Kate's finger. 11:18 a.m. No ring for William, by the way. 11:20 a.m. The Archbishop pronounces them man and wife. 11:20 a.m. They're married. The congregation sings Love Divine or Love's Excelling. 11:24 a.m. James Middleton, Kate's brother, is now reading the lesson from Romans 12, 1-2, 9-18. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly.
This poem is an excerpt from a long work in progress entitled The Xenotext. This is the last poem in the book. It's a kind of cri de coeur about the death of poetry. The work is entitled The Perfect Malware. Arks and zoos now harbor the remnants of our refrains. What poetry can we imagine when poetry itself has gone extinct? Must we look for it in the soot of our burnt books? Must we decipher it in the trampled pastures of rapeseed near Barbary Castle? Must we discover it by calculating pi to a Google of binary digits? Must we extract its requiem from the protean pulsing of the Cepheids? Wow. We have heard such a dirge but once, emanating from the precincts of Tau Sagittarii. We have dialed our radios to the appointed frequency in megahertz, but never again does the call sign chime. Instead, we hear a dark roar, as if from a specter trapped inside a cold mirror at the edge of the universe. We look for this ghost, but the blind glass reflects back at us only a blank stare made from the most durable isotope of nothingness. It ignores us like a sphinx of black quartz. When we confront it in the courtyard of the United Nations building, do we not fear an impassive judgment from such a smotherer of planets, such a tinderbox for sunsets? Alas, the thing is hollow. It goes on forever. My God, it is full of stars. It sings an orison to itself in hell, calling all thinking machines to embrace its madness. It teaches us to kill. It shrieks its aubad to the dawn, then goes silent. It is a mausoleum for the minds that dare to hear it. It is a tombstone for our sentience. It marks our exit from perdition like a doorway left ajar for us. At the Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, at the Tycho crater on the moon, at the Stickney crater on Phobos, at the Noctis Labyrinthus on Mars, at the Phoenix Linnea on Europa, at the Roncevaux Terra on Iapetus, at the Lagrange point between Jupiter and Io. It presides over all the atoms inside us, waiting aloofly for us to arrive. What offerings do we bring it for cremation in its funeral pyres? The word mir in dits and das, the digits 1 to 10, the atomic design for DNA, the pixel image of a human being, the sound of vaginal muscles tensing in ballerinas, the formula for ethanol, the kanji glyph for kampai, the doodle of a lungfish crawling from the sea. The symbolic units of logic, the periodic table of atoms, the flags of every nation, the hazy cosmic jive, the tremulous vibration of a nocturne played upon a theremin, the registries from Craigslist, the thoughts that meander like a restless wind inside a letterbox, the chatter of 500 folks who win a prize, the advert for cheesy snacks brought to you by Doritos, the diktat of Klaatu, who aborts the harrowing of humankind, the prattling of the plebeians who say hello, the gene for Rubisco, most copious protein on the planet. Must we bequeath to the darkness all the bright tokens of what we know? Must we greet each revenant in hell with goodwill, speaking whatever language can cast a spell upon such a ghost? Must the Nazi file from the Wehrmacht be the Virgil who salutes these shadows on our behalf? Must we retell the legend of our ascent from the yowling of the rainforest to the roaring of the spacecraft? Must we flip through the scrapbook, reminiscing over Polaroids of our excursion from the ovum to the void? Must we tour the ruin that the whale songs lament? Let us betray our sorrow through the play of syrinxes and dulcimers, of gamelans and violettas. Let us give away the brainwaves of a woman who dreams fondly of her lovers. Let the death of verse be dated by the half-life of uranium-238. Electroplated on a disc of gilded copper, let us discover virales in the midst of alien fires. Here, in the cyan veil of cellophane, whose evanescence resembles an arc of electricity seen through fumes of flaring propane. Here, in the pink mist engulfing the rosette, each petal spritzed with an indigo nimbus of dew. Here, in the waterfall whose flute of champagne spills forth from the mill race on a cliff to decant itself into a cove of sea foam. Here, in the lagoon overlit by the primrose flickers from a crowd of flashbulbs going off in a thundercloud. Here, in the iridescent husk of a crab by the shore, its shell blown asunder as though its heart is being incinerated by a tiny star. Here, in the magenta balloon of a jellyfish from the order of Narcomedusae, floating like a banshee draped in the tatters of a bloody shroud. Here in the silhouette of a horse head rearing up through a fog bank of fuchsia smoke on the battlefield. Here in the butterfly, here in the hourglass. Hell itself cannot suppress the loveliness of these infinite infernos raging in the distance, so far away from us that when we gaze upon such furnaces, our souls do not ignite a blaze, but shiver in the darkness. Each of us is but a cosmonaut in distress, stranded and marooned in space, where we dread immersion in the shadowed vastness, because it is our isolation and our ignorance made visible. None of us can escape its pull, even when we close our eyes against it. We have seen it in our sleep, yet we cannot gaze upon its face unless we view it through the mirrored hexagons of our instruments. It is waiting for us, hoarding time, somewhere in the Aridonis supervoid, a zone of emptiness so vast and deep that it has hollowed out the cosmos. It is but a pinpoint in such blackness, a microscopic singularity infecting us like a virus. It is what must utterly condemn us.
I'm going to read something in German language. It's from a project which uses epigraphs from books. Like this one is from Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, and it's a model from Francis Bacon, Ne nobis ipsi selemis, which means we should be silent about ourselves. And I only use the letters which are in the epigraph. So I read it in German, but since it's a list, I hope you are okay with this. since everybody mentioned the Nazis already, so... Eins. Beide Pole siegen, die blonde böse Miet dein Leben, die Esel sind lieb, die Mine solide, die Elben sieden Eis, simpel, ein Moped, Eile, Leide, Liebe, ein Bild ebenso, ein Lied, eine Lilie. Die Linse diene dem Dieb, dem Spion die Blende, bloß Leid und Lob. Den Bissen essen die Debilen, Moses im selben Mond, Eile indes. Mein Beileid, liebe Else, es sei so simpel. Die Silbe in der Poesie spiele nie. Den Eid ölen die Lieder, die Meise indes melde Bienen, diene den Pinien, es bleiben die Sonde. Die Medien bilden, die Speisen sieden, die Penisse meiden die Öde. 2. Mein Leben, mein Spleen, mein Niesel, mein Nebel, mein Leib, mein Diesel, mein Eid, mein Bild, mein Blei, mein Polen, meine See, mein Slip, meine Sonde, mein Bein. 3. Ein Ende, eine Eibe, ein Mond, ein Mini, ein Nomen, ein Silo, ein Mops, eine Idee, eine Öse, eine Sonde, eine Meise, ein Möbel, ein Model, ein Lied, ein Dom, ein Beispiel, beide, ein Bissen, ein Dieb, eine Pinie. 4. Deine Mispel, dein Spilo, deine SPD, dein Sold, dein Sion, dein Model, deine Medien, deine Mist, deine Leine, deine Deponie, deine Dose, dein Diplom, dein Blei, dein Bon, deine Ossis, dein Opel, dein Olm, deine Melone. 5. Mein Imbiss, deine Linde, mein Loden, deine Blinde, meine Spende, deine Pein, meine Mobile, dein Nissen, meine Nele, deine Liese, meine Sessel, deine Lesbe, meine Demo, mein Eid, mein Emi, dein Bein, dein, mein, meine, deine, meins, deins, ESO-Mode. 6. Binden, Lino, Speisen, Lose, Indien, Polen, Leben, Ebene, Modi, Soll, Möbel, Moped, Opel, Linse, Inseln, Öde, Bisse, Pisse, Boden, Bild, Biene, Diele, Dieb. 7. Soli, Sohle, Ione, Sessel, Seide, Silben, 7, 7 Silben, 7, 7, 7, 7, Spenden, Speien, Sieden, Speisen, Spielen, Simsen. SMS, 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 SM, Obi, Emi, Mini, Olm, Ei, bis blieb, Is, beiß, Pein, Psi, Eso, Psi, Ion, Lob. 8. Beileid, Beil, Demo, Distose, Dom, Ende, Eid, Ende. 9. Mobile, Öse, Möse, Penis, Mond, Ines, Imbiss, Linde, Liebes, Lied. 10. Mobile, Mini, Miss, Poem, Lesen, Liese, Nomen, Dösen, Spliss, Seil, Silbe, Sim, Slip, Spielen, Leine, Diele, Leib, Lied. Thank you.
Dice. Says yes, says no, says maybe, says I don't know, says perhaps, says I don't think so, says probably, says tomorrow, says after tomorrow, says never. Says don't point profanity, says don't show licentious nudity, says don't mention legal traffic, says don't infer sex perversion, says don't display white slavery, says don't represent miscegenation, says don't mention venereal diseases, says don't show childbirth in fact or in silhouette, says don't depict children's sex organs, says don't ridicule the clergy, says don't offend any nation, says don't offend any race, says don't offend any creed. Says Platt Amendment, says independence of Panama, says Dominican Republic, says occupation of Nicaragua, says Mexican Revolution, says occupation of Haiti, says Operation PV success, says Bay of Pigs invasion, says Chile and Pinochet, says invasion of Grenada, says Jane Fonda, says Charlton Heston, says come on baby, says let's do the twist, says come on baby, says let's do the twist, says take me by, says my little hand, says and go like this. Says Tuskegee syphilis experiment, says Guatemala syphilis experiment, says Milgram experiment, says San Quentin experiment, says US Army radiation experiment, says Chemical Warfare Service experiment, says Monster study, says San Antonio contraceptive study, says Project Shutter, says Project Bluebeard, says Project Artichoke, says Project MK Ultra, says Guantanamo Bay, says Abu Ghraib, says Tommy Smith, says John Carlos. Says known knows, says we know, says known unknowns, says we know, says we don't know, says unknown unknowns, says we do not know, says we don't know. Says I like to be in America, says okay by me in America, says everything free in America, says for a small fee in America, says automobile in America, says chromium steel in America, says wire spoke wheel in America, says very big deal in America, says immigrant goes to America, says many hellos in America, says nobody knows in America, says arbitrons in America, says I like the shores of America, says comfort is yours in America, says knock on the doors in America, says wall-to-wall floors in America. Dice uno, dice dos, dice ultraviolento, dice ahora qué pasa, dice te perdí, dice la culpa fue mía, dice eres exquisita, dice como un gran asado, dice con papitas fritas, dice aleluya, dice dame, dice tu puré de papas, dice por el vino, dice me quedé sin penas. Says pronunciamiento, says coup d'etat, says facto government, says military government, says military coup, says military regime, says authoritarian regime, says governing body, says junta, says pure and simple dictatorship. Says tutti frutti, oh Rudy, says tutti frutti, oh Rudy, says tutti frutti. Oh, Rudy, says a womp babaloo, says a womp babaloo. Says France for the French, says Canada for Canadians, says Germany for Germans, says Britain for Britons, says Norway for Norwegians, says México para los mexicanos, says Chile pour les Chileans, says America for Americans, says Mars for Martians. Says the beach, says the beach, says under the beach, says under there, says the cobblestones, says under the cobblestones, says the beach, says under the cobblestones, the beach, says under the beach, says beach cobblestones, says there, says under cobblestone beach, says the cobblestone, says under the beach, says cobblestone beach, says under, says the under, says under cobblestone, says the beach, says under beach cobblestone, there, says the cobblestones, says the beach, says under the cobblestone, says la plage, says sous les pavés, says the beach. Says plague of Athens, says plague of Justinian, says Antonine plague, says bubonic plague, says Black Death, says the Great Plague of London, says third pandemic, says measles, says smallpox, says whooping cough, says influenza, says syphilis, says cholera, says typhus, says tuberculosis, says leprosy, says malaria, says yellow fever, says the English threat, says Staphylococcus aureus, says superbug, says avian flu, says swine flu, says HIV, says SARS, says H1N1, says H1N2, says H2N1, says H3N1, says H3N2, says H2N3, says H5N1. Says Viktor Yushchenko, says Alexander Litvinenko. Says Library of Alexandria, says Library of Antioch, says Imperial Library of Constantinople, says House of Wisdom, says Glasgow College, says Library of Congress, says Royal Library of the Kings of Burma, says Institute für Sexualwissenschaft, says Library of the Catholic University of Louvain, says National Library of Serbia, says Sauski Library, says National Library of Cambodia, says Oriental Institute in Sarajevo, says National University Library of Bosnia and Herzegovina, says Iraq National Library, says Egyptian Scientific Institute, says I remember, dice yo me acuerdo, on dit je me souviens. Says Deepwater Horizon, says Exxon Valdez, says Bjelke, says Fukushima, says Chernobyl. Says better not talk about this, says better don't make such a big deal, says better leave this behind, says forget about it, says this is what it is and no more, says doesn't exist. Says don't know, says don't matter, says don't care, says not my problem, says none of my business, says doesn't concern me, says doesn't affect me, says has nothing to do with me. Says I wash my hands. Says no forgiveness. Says no forgetting.